Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
And welcome, everyone, to Caregiver Solutions Info. I'm so happy you could join us this evening, whether you are listening on your radio at 1470 AM or watching us live on the computer at home, maybe at work, at caregiversolutions.info. I welcome you all. I'm so glad you're here to learn about caregiving. We talk about Alzheimer's, we talk about dementia, we talk about all things caregiving. And one of the things that we really like to do is educate the caregivers by bringing on experts in the field of various types of fields, considering that people in caregiving need elder law attorneys, they need geriatric care managers, they need to talk to doctors and social workers. And so we bring experts to you so that we can ask the questions and you can get the answers. So I'm really happy you're here. And we're going to start off today by making a few announcements. We're getting very close to the annual educational conference for Alzheimer's Community Care. It's actually this Thursday and Friday, March 17th and 18th at the West Palm Beach Convention Center. We've been announcing this. I know many of you have gone on to their website and have gotten the information you need to register. If you can possibly go to this conference, I strongly urge you to do so. It's once a year, and it is an awesome place for caregivers to get extra education, to meet up with other caregivers, and to learn from many professionals in the field. As a matter of fact, they have people that come from all over the United States to talk to caregivers at this conference. The keynote speaker this year is Dr. Kenneth Kosick. He's the author of the book called The Alzheimer's Solution. Also coming is the secretary of the Florida Department of Elder Affairs. Many topics will be covered, including best communication techniques, the latest in research, laws on guardianship, care options, and many, many more. So it will be definitely worth your while. It's very affordable for caregivers. And if you like more information or to register, go to their website, alzcare.org. That's ALZCARE.org. Also, coming up is the walk, the Optimism Walk, to benefit the American Parkinson's Disease Association. Now, we had the executive director from the South Florida chapter of the Parkinson's Disease Association with us recently, and she was awesome. And we talked about how Parkinson's disease can also lead to dementia. So a lot of similarities between Alzheimer's type dementia, Parkinsonian type dementia. And so they're having a walk to raise awareness and to raise funds. And it's going to be here in South Florida on April 17th, and it will take place at the Town Center in Boca Raton on Glades Road. If you'd like to register to walk or to make a donation, you can go to their website, which is apdaflorida.org. That's apda, the word Florida.org. So check out both of these opportunities. It's really a way to learn and to meet people and feel like, you're not alone, because you're not. There are people that walk in your shoes, people that are experts in their field that are more than happy to help you with probably anything that you might need. All you have to do is ask. So I received an email actually this week from a listener. And it was wonderful because we got some great feedback. And after last week's show, I got a email, and I want to share that email with you right now. It says, "Good evening," and I'll only use her first name. Her first name is Myra. "My name is Myra. I am currently a caregiver to my mother, and I have been taking care of her for several years now. I was listening to your show today and was very excited about today's topic because I have been considering placing my mom in a memory care community. And I heard about memory care communities from listening to your show, but I have questioned myself on when is the right time. Thanks to your program, I feel more comfortable and do plan on contacting the facility this week and start looking for a place for my mom. I want to say again, thank you, and how great the information available from your show is to caregivers like myself, and will continue listening to you. Respectfully, Myra, who is from West Palm Beach." And I think that is awesome. I appreciate, Myra, that you take the time to give us an email. I know you're busy taking care of your mom, it says, and it's really appreciated, and to know that this program is actually reaching people and helping people. So if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you want to know something that we can share, that we can actually come on to the show and answer your question, all you have to do is send me an email at marcia.teele@arden-courts.com. That's Marcia, spelled Marcia, .teele, Teele, at arden-courts.com. And we'll get back to you with that information. So this is going to be sort of like a caregiver corner today, because something else came across my desk that I would really like to share with you. One of the guests on the show, probably several months back, I think it might have been December, she has a husband who has Alzheimer's, and she was here with another caregiver, and they shared their story about how it's like to live with a husband, a spouse that has dementia. And it's very heartwarming, but touching, and a little sad, to say the least. But these caregivers were so warm and opened their hearts to share with us how they felt and what it meant, and their journey and their struggles. So today I actually received a letter from one of the ladies, and we have somebody on the air. It's Myra. Well, let's talk to Myra. Myra, are you there?
Hi, yes I am.
Oh, Myra, I just read your email. Thank you so much. It's so nice for you to call and chat with us.
Definitely. I again wanted to thank you because your show has introduced me to many things that I was not aware of, and it's always good for the people who do things like this to know that other people are listening and that they are making an impact in their lives.
Well, I so much appreciate it. You know, it really means a lot to me that you did take that time and make that effort. And you said that you're taking care of your mom. And do you also work, or are you a working gal, or you stay home with mom full time?
No, I right now my mom's going to daycare. I work full time, and I'm finalizing one of my degrees for work. That's going to be part of my job. So I'm a little busy with her. Plus, I have a husband and 3 dogs. So yeah, my hands are full.
Your hands are full. So how did you hear about Caregiver Solutions Info?
Actually, it was one of the social workers that works at Alzheimer's daycare. She knew that I wasn't able to go to the support groups that they provide during the day in the community. And I asked her if she had any other solutions or things I can listen to that I would learn more, and that, you know, being a caregiver, you don't have a manual. You don't have anything that's going to tell you what to do, how to do it as she changes. And this show provided me with the 36-hour-a-day book.
Oh yeah, we offered that. Did you call in and get your 36-hour day book from the show?
I didn't call in because I heard about that later, that you could call in. I had already downloaded it on my Nook, And since I travel, it was I just downloaded it and started reading it. But I mean, if I had known that, if I had thought of it, I would have ordered it. I would have just called it in and then gotten it for free. But that's okay because the book was worth it. I mean, it's like living. It's like somebody understands what I'm living through and can kind of guide you through it. It makes such a difference to have that kind of information because you always feel like you're alone.
Right, and you know you're working full time. You have a family. You have responsibilities, and you never know what's going to come next with your mom and what you should do and how to handle it. And I'm glad that you're getting the resources that you need.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Your show has been great. And sometimes if I don't get to see it, I'll go to your archives and I'll listen to it, even if it's a couple of days later. Because sometimes I'm on travel and don't get to listen to it. So that's such a convenience, too.
Well, that's wonderful. I know that you downloaded the book, but if you want to call in and get a book sent to you that maybe you could share with someone else, that would be great. We'd be happy to make sure that you get a hard copy of it so that not only you'd have an extra, but maybe something to share with someone else that's in your shoes and that you can, let them know that, hey, here's something that I found out and I'd like to share it with you.
That's great. I definitely am going to do that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your show. Keep up the great work because you really are making a difference.
Oh, thank you, Myra. I appreciate it so much. Good luck to you and your mom. And if there's anything that you need, just give us a holler and we'll be happy to, promote it or tell people about it. If there's any special questions you have or something that you might like to hear, we'd be definitely glad to learn that up from you. And thank you again, and you have a great evening, okay?
You too. Thank you very much.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Oh, that was so nice. We heard from Myra. That was amazing. She called in and shared a little extra information for us. But before we go to our first commercial break, I want to get back to this poem, actually, that was written by Lorraine Abel. She told me that she woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning one night and she couldn't go back to sleep, and she just had to get something written down to make herself feel better. And this is the result of what Lorraine wrote. And she said that it might be nice if I shared it with everyone because I'm sure people could identify with this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. It's called The Torture of Alzheimer's. The love of your life is here in body, but who he once was is long forgotten. Conversation and comprehension ceases. He looks at you and doesn't see. He looks in the mirror at an unfamiliar face and person. Memories of his and your life do not exist. You want him to remember, hoping beyond hope, that the window of the past opens once again. Your friends who are true keep you close and do their best to support you daily. Some spouses are lucky to have their children to lean on and have a shoulder to cry on. But for some, they only have a pillow, which becomes their daily comfort to hang on to. As a spouse, a parent, and a caregiver, your shoulders must be wide and strong, so you smile and pretend you are holding on. But as you watch the love of your life vanish before your eyes, a piece of you dies with them. The torture of Alzheimer's lasts briefly with the diagnosed person, but to the spouse, it lasts your lifetime. Pretty real. We'll go to quick commercial break. Stay with us.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2682 2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare-covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, we're back, and I want to thank Lorraine Abel for not only writing that beautiful poem, but sharing it with us so we could share it with you. It was very touching, Lorraine, and we felt your heart. So thank you again for allowing us to read that. So today, we're going to be talking to a geriatric care manager and learning all about what a geriatric care manager does, how a geriatric care manager can help, and what all that means to caregivers. So today with us here in the studio is Jill Poser. Hi, Jill.
Hi.
And Jill is a certified geriatric care manager with AdvoCare Care Advocates here in South Florida. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm very excited to talk to you because I know that you're very passionate about what you do, and
That's
I'm curious about, your life's journey that got you here into being a certified geriatric care manager, because it's something that not everybody just decides to do. There's usually a reason why you decide this is what I want to do. So how did you get to be a certified geriatric care manager? You want to share with us?
I would love to.
Okay.
Well, a few years ago, I owned a showroom in Galt Ocean Mile in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we did high-end renovations for folks who lived in the local area. And along the journey, the National Association of Home Builders offered a certification called a Certified Aging in Place Specialist, and it just captured something in me, and I decided to sit for the certification. And that's sort of how the journey started to get me to the next, passion juncture in my life. And from there, I realized that I just was not satisfied doing these high-end renovations, and I wanted to just do more to help people who seem to have vulnerabilities in their lives. So ultimately, I chose to go back to school at the University of Florida for geriatric care management. And from there, I came to work with AdvoCare Care Advocates, and that's kind of what happened for me. And I've never looked back, and I've never been happier.
That's awesome. So you found something that made more meaning to your life.
Definitely.
It kind of, you started, but you evolved. And I think a lot of us do that. We, on our path, our life path gets us to where we find a passion and something that we really want to give back by having it be our life's work. And it's wonderful that you found that as a segue from what you started by doing renovations and doing safety in the home. So tell me what a geriatric care manager does. What does it mean to be a geriatric care manager?
Well, here's what's interesting. It's depending on the day, depending on the family, the needs of the client, it varies, which is what always keeps it interesting and different. So families and loved ones come to us from actually every part of the country. Many of our clients are actually long distance from their family members here in Florida. So what happens, and I'll give you a typical example. So what happens is, oftentimes you get a phone call from a loved one. It could be a daughter, a son, a niece, a nephew, and the call will look like, I saw my mom, and I don't know, she seems so much different than she did when I saw her 3 months ago. And she has food that's expired in the refrigerator. Her home is in disarray. Her bills are late. She hasn't opened the mail in, it looks like a month. What do I do? So that right away for us is a red flag. Gee, there must likely be some type of memory loss, but that's really hard for loved ones who are living far from their family members in Florida.
They don't see it because they're too far away and they're not dealing with them on a daily basis. So they don't know what's wrong, but they probably don't think it's memory loss.
Well, initially, many people don't. And we trained as care managers, have to know what type of language to use and how to express these types of concepts to family members so that it's not so shocking, it's not so overwhelming. And so that's a typical type of call. And I'm going to make it focused a little bit more to Alzheimer's and dementia because that's a big focus of the show. So that's kind of how it'll start. And then from there, we talk about what we do at Advocare and the types of services that we can provide to a family who is in need of care management services. So what does that mean?
Right.
Okay, so typically what that means is that we look to assess what is happening in a person's life. What is it that is prompting a family member to call and say that there's something really different going on and we need help? And so what happens is we look at a person's life in its entirety. We will meet with that person, and in care management, we do what's called an assessment. And what happens is you look at what is happening currently, and that's current medical status. We talk about medical history. We deal in what's called psychosocial. How is someone interacting in his or her own environment? How are they socially? How are they with their loved ones? How are they living in their home?
And how do you get this information? Are you getting it from the family? Do you go meet the person? How are you getting all this information?
Okay, so great question. So we typically always, in doing an assessment, meet with the person directly. Because if you don't meet with the person directly, you really don't have a sense of where that person is at. And then when there is missing information, we'll talk to a family member to kind of fill in some of the pieces. So that's sort of how an assessment goes. Once we get all that information, as I said, it'll be the current medical status and it'll be medical history, the medication somebody is taking, because sometimes many times actually what happens is that there's mismanagement of the medications. That could be making the situation that much more complicated.
I bet you go into the medicine cabinet at some of these vulnerable people, and
Yes.
I bet you have tons of medicine that are expired, or maybe they're what they call double dipping, and it's just a bunch of bottles, and maybe they're taking it, maybe they're not, maybe they're doubling up, and like you said, no one's really managing that for them.
Well, that's actually a lot of what happens from a medical care management perspective has to do with medication management. Exactly like what Marcia's explaining. You can have where you have empty bottles, you can have where you have double bottles of the same medication. You can have where people have pill boxes and they're taking medicine on one day, but they don't take medicine for another 6 days. So we get involved in coordinating all those issues and matters. From the assessment, what always happens is that a care plan is written, and a care plan becomes like the business plan of care management. They are actionable how-tos and recommendations for next steps. I would say if I had to describe anything about care management, it's really about anticipating transitions, anticipating the what ifs, so that for our families and our loved ones that we are dealing with, they're not having to anticipate, because how would they know?
Well, I was just going to say that because you have the experience with other clients for many years. You know what the what ifs are. You know what might be happening. You know what could come down the pike. And for a family member who's never dealt with this before, has no clue, they wouldn't even know even what to even imagine or ask questions.
It's really
they're
true.
just lost. And so you already have the answers before the questions are even asked, it sounds like.
So here's what's interesting. We have most recently a client. This is the husband, and his wife has, I wouldn't say she's at the beginning of dementia. She's probably a little further along than the beginning. And enough that he's starting to struggle with some of the changes. So what are some of the changes, by example? She really can't coordinate any longer any type of bill pay. She really doesn't understand how to use the washing machine or the dryer any longer. She can't load up a dishwasher and turn the dishwasher on with the soap. So it's things like that.
Normal daily
Basic
tasks.
Yes. She's still amazingly conversant. She's a classical pianist and can still play piano and can go to a musical concert and enjoy those types of things because they come naturally to her. But things that we all take for granted are starting to change enough that it's really becoming hard for him. So his daughter, by example, said to him, Dad, because he's a very educated man, she said, perhaps really you should do more research on the internet and learn a whole lot more about dementia so that maybe, you'd be able to anticipate what's going to happen. So he approached me in getting together about working together and said, what do you think of that idea? So what I encouraged him, and I encourage most clients to do, is not actually to do that. Why? Because sometimes what happens is you read all this information on the internet and then you are almost waiting. You think that this is exactly what will happen to your loved one, and every case is so different. It's so overwhelming when you read some of this information, particularly because there are no survivors and there's no one with dementia who can explain it back to you. We do our best to anticipate and encourage you to stay more in the moment.
I think that would actually scare some people.
It
by
does.
Reading all of this and saying, this is what might happen, and you've got all these scenarios, and now you're a person who doesn't have the experience or the expertise.
Correct.
They're reading this and they're like, holy cow, how am I going to deal with this? I can't do this. And they would get scared or frustrated or worse, and I think you're right. It's so overwhelming and there's so much out there. I think the field needs to be narrowed down specifically to what you're saying, to each person's situation, because there is no black and white when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's.
There really isn't a black and white. So we do our best to keep our clients anchored in the moment. We do our best to sort of be, if you will, the quarterbacks to help them through care plans and transitions so that as they're kind of going over the bumps and the hurdles, it doesn't seem as harsh. The family members and the loved ones know they're never alone. We're always a phone call away. And in the way that we manage our cases, by example, we have nurses who are on call 24/7 for their cases. We, in life care planning and transition care management, can be on call for our clients 24/7. So if there are emergencies, if someone becomes so frightened and anxious, that person is no longer alone having to scramble and figure it out, by example, looking on the internet or calling to get information, random information. So that has proven to be a huge help for our families. And other things that happen in care management, in anticipating so many changes, we put together lots of different teams. We have medical teams we put together. We coordinate the specialists. We handle medication management. We go to medical appointments with our clients. We help through the hospital and rehab scenarios where that in and of itself is so shocking and overwhelming. If you're not in the medical world, how do you know the language to be able to communicate properly and know that the right decisions are being made? So we have nurse care managers that will kind of become the liaison and help you to understand the information so you are making informed decisions.
I think that's awesome because you're speaking my language, helping caregivers navigate through all the options and what do I do next, and look at the future and make a plan. And I love this. This is great topic, great conversation. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with Jill from AdvoCare.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law, to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, I would like to thank very much our national sponsor for making this program available to everyone. We have the local sponsors, and I want you to pay attention and call them for help. But on a national level, Arden Court's memory care communities are located all over the United States, and they're there to help you wherever you are, to answer questions, to give you education, and lend their expertise, because memory care is all they do. And one of the things that Arden Courts likes to do is to provide free resource information to caregivers. And so if you're listening and you have not had an opportunity to read the 36-hour day book, earlier in the show, we had Myra call in. She heard about this book from our show. She downloaded it so she could take it with her wherever she is. But this book is made available free to you from Arden Courts just for the asking. And all you have to do is give them a call on their toll-free number, which is 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about this free offer on the Caregiver Solutions Info program, and they'll take your name and address and be happy to mail a free copy of the 36-hour day to you. This book is awesome. It's considered the go-to book for caregivers to learn about characteristics of dementia, caregiving tips, all kinds of wonderful information. Like Myra said, you know, she's learning, and it's like taking care of a baby. You don't know what to do until you read information books. Well, same thing. If you have a spouse or a parent and you don't know what to do and you need a little bit of guidance, not only can you tune into this program, but you can get a copy of the 36-hour day to help you in the meantime. So go ahead and give Arden Courts a call. They'll be glad to help you. We're talking today with Jill Poser. Jill is a certified geriatric care manager. And Jill, I hear you over there. Sounds like you're just getting over what's been going around around town with the laryngitis and the cough and everything. So
sorry.
You know what? Here's what I said. I had a laryngitis a few weeks ago. I could hardly get a word out, and I thought the show must go on because, you know, caregiving doesn't stop when things get rough. Dementia
Never.
doesn't stop when things get rough. So, you know, we're gonna push on and get the information out there, rain or shine, to our viewers. And so I hope you're feeling a little bit better. I know
Much better. Thank you so much.
You were very sick a few weeks ago. So we're talking about geriatric care management, what that means. Jill was sharing with us how a geriatric care manager can help a family, especially families that are not local to the loved one who seems to be diminishing in capacity, and maybe, you know, things aren't going so well and they're having some troubles and you can't put your finger on it, and the family that's away, they're working, they're not local, they can't really help from afar. So it sounds like, Jill, that a geriatric care manager can be a person's eyes and ears and feet and hands too.
I would say that is really the case. Today, for example, I rushed to get here because one of my clients who's been my client for a little under 5 years, we've gone through so many transitions with her, beginning with memory disorder. And her husband had passed away. She was still living at home in a big house up in Boynton Beach, a beautiful home, actually. And she didn't want to leave her home. She had all her belongings and she had lived there with her husband for many years. She deeply loved her husband. And now she found herself alone. And unfortunately, she developed memory disorder.
And how old was about this approximately?
She was in her late 70s.
Okay.
And then, unfortunately, how it manifested for her is that she developed such anxiety and fear of being alone that she was continuously calling 911. And so the paramedics would be coming to her home, and there would be
no emergency.
So there would be constant charges for the ambulance to come, and this was going on 2 and 3 times a week.
Wow.
Her son, who lives in New Jersey, this is her only child, they're very close. He was at his wit's end because she insisted she's never moving from her home. And so the dance began. And he thought it would be insurmountable, impossible to ever get her to move. And through our process and lots of patience and lots of kindness and consideration, we were able slowly but surely to get her to move. And so we've moved her, which is almost 5 years ago, into a community. And at that time, she could still really enjoy a very vibrant, full life, even though that she had some memory loss. But she was now in a community where she had lots of socialization.
She wasn't alone
people.
anymore.
She wasn't alone.
Yeah.
She developed a whole network of women friends, and she just was having the time of her life. But unfortunately, as you know, memory loss just takes no prisoners. And so with time, unfortunately, the disease has gotten worse. So we moved her again to the first level of assisted living, where she had more and more assist because she couldn't afford to have her own caregiver in her apartment. And then today we had to move her again to the next tier of assisted living. And hopefully she'll be able to sustain for the rest of her life, and she will live out her days in a higher level of care in the building.
But in the meantime, she had quality of life, and that's what I think is so important for people that have the memory loss and the dementia, is because in her own home she was fearful and she was lonely and alone, and it was scary to her, and it was probably scary to her family too. And you gave her options, and by helping her make that transition, you actually improved her quality of life. I think that's a lovely story.
Well, not only that, we made it a lot easier for her son because he has a wife, and unfortunately his wife developed cancer.
Oh dear.
And so at the same time that his mom has been deteriorating in her way, his wife is facing her own health issues, and he has to be there with her. So we have given him tremendous peace of mind. We were able to go through all the transitions with her for him and do it in a very loving way, keeping him apprised of all information. So today we had a successful move, and she's living in another part of the building and being cared for in a wonderful way, and he has peace of mind and still can attend to what he needs to do for his wife, and everybody is settled and, none the worse for wear. And that's very important for families that, like I said, everybody can go through their transitions, in a peaceful manner.
Right,
and that's
absolutely.
critical.
That is the most important thing, I think, is, caregivers and those that are not really understanding of the process. It is very scary to them. And to have people that are caring, compassionate, that understand the disease, that can walk you through it, hold your hand, not only figuratively, but sometimes even literally
That's
also.
True, literally.
It really makes all the difference in the world. And you mentioned that AvoCare is a full-service care management company, and I'm not sure, we all know what that means. Are there different aspects, different kinds of things that you do? Can you explain that?
I would love to. So when you are addressing a person and a person's needs and a family's needs, you can't look at a person as just having one issue. So, for example, somebody now develops memory loss. Okay, that's physical and also psychosocial and things that people have sort of come to expect. But then there are kind of like ripples in the water. Once you know that somebody has memory loss, it's like kind of like throwing a little pebble into the water, and it just keeps rippling out because there are other implications to that. Can somebody afford to remain at home with the level of care that he or she will start to need? Can somebody afford to move and live in an assisted living facility that focuses on memory care? Does someone have the appropriate legal documents to support their needs? And if not, when would the family be addressing those matters? Because with dementia, that window starts to close.
Exactly.
So there are all these issues that become part of a person's life and needs, and we look at that as being what we call life care planning. Now, really, life care planning is something that happens at every age. Your child turns 18 and you no longer can advocate for your child without legal documents that say that you have that authority. So that at every age, you have to address all these different matters. And then as you get older, the needs just change, so you have to address it from a different perspective. So what happens at Advocare, and what we believe in care management, is we believe in an integrated approach so that we're addressing the medical issues that occur. Equally as significant are the non-medical issues, the financial and legal, to support the care needs as it's evolving and changing.
Right, because it's all connected.
It's all connected. You are never just one thing. So sometimes somebody's alone. Sometimes you have a husband and wife and you have a huge disparity in the need. You have a wife, God forbid, that now has memory loss, but you have a husband who's completely healthy and intact. Okay, her needs are greater. There's more financial implications to that, yet the husband still wants to have somewhat of a life, and certain bills still have to be paid. How does all that happen? How do you manage your changing budget and your changing needs? We help families to work through budgets and changing care needs, and we will put together what we call non-medical teams. So that can be the appropriate financial advisor who understands long-term planning with the right elder law attorney who works in tandem with care management and our client and the financial advisor to develop a sustainable long-term plan for the loved one, for the family members, so that it makes sense. And again, you don't have to feel the transitions as significantly. They're kind of like little ripples, not giant mountains to climb over.
You take away that confusion and you take away the overwhelming experience.
Yes,
and
I'd like to think we do anyway.
Well, I see that. I mean, it's a wholesome approach, a whole approach to each aspect, because like I said before, they are connected, and sometimes families don't really understand how connected they really are and what the timing is, because you mentioned about when the time comes, and some families will miss a window by not doing what they need to do, and they'll miss a window, whether it's getting legal documents or they'll miss a window for making an application for something. It's very, very important to have someone like your company, a geriatric care manager, who understands all this. And there are geriatric care managers all over the United States, I imagine, and
true.
I would imagine even in the world, but they're very significant here in South Florida, because people retire to South Florida. You know, we're one of the largest retirement states in the country, and so we need to have help for the vulnerable, for the elderly, and for all the moms and dads who retire to Florida who don't have families nearby. It's so important. So, this is really great information. We're going to take our last commercial break, and when we come back, Jill's going to share with us some really, really good tips that you need to know for safety in your home. We'll be right back.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
And we're talking with Jill Poser. Jill is a certified geriatric care manager with AdvoCare, and we're talking about what a care manager does and how a care manager can be your eyes and ears and even hands and feet, especially for adult children who don't live near their parents and are concerned and need someone to be their eyes and ears, to go and check on parents and see what the situation is and help it, create a care plan. And it's from, soup to nuts, doing everything involved. And I think this is a very important aspect because I talk to a lot of families, Jill, and they've never heard about a geriatric care manager.
True.
And I think it's very important that, whether you need one now or you might need one later, it's good to know that they're there for you.
I agree.
And I know that some people for example, there was a lady who lived in New York, and her mom had dementia and was in a certain assisted living, but the doctor had called the daughter in New York and said, your mom is pretty much wasting away because she's doing nothing in this assisted living. So she might have had some dementia, but maybe it wasn't, actually addressed. And she wasn't being involved in activities. She really wasn't socializing. She wasn't being stimulated. The doctor told the daughter in New York, your mom's wasting away. So the daughter found a local care manager in South Florida. The care manager kind of took on the case, went to visit the mom in the regular assisted living, realized that what was going on is she did have dementia. So she was withdrawing, wasn't going to activities.
Sure, happens a lot.
Because she felt like she didn't want to go and put herself out there in case she made a mistake or said the wrong thing. So she started isolating and withdrawing and getting depressed. And so the care manager actually found me at Arden Courts, and he said, you know what, this would be a better environment. So I remember the lady's name was Ethel. I'll never forget Ethel. We had Ethel move in from the regular assisted living into memory care, which is what Arden Courts does. And it was almost like she became a different person. She became alive. She woke up. She was the first one in activities every day. What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? And so the environment makes a difference. But if that care manager had not gotten involved, if the daughter hadn't called someone to help her, because she certainly couldn't come down, and even if she did come down from New York, she wouldn't have known where to start. It's very overwhelming.
Very.
Especially when, you try to do it on a weekend and you got to get back to work. So she found the care manager, and it was a really, really good success story. So I want to applaud you for what you do.
Aw, thank you.
I know, that you have your heart in it, and I know it's not easy, but because you know what you're doing and you have the passion for it, it's like when we do things that we love, it's not really work. It's a service we give,
true.
And the best part is that we get paid for doing that.
That's really true.
And I think that's great. So speaking of getting paid, I have a quick question for you.
Okay, go for it.
Care management. Is it something covered by Medicare, or is it private pay out of pocket only?
Okay, so that's a great question. We get asked this all the time. We are not part of the Medicare system. I actually think that care management is the missing link in healthcare. Personally, I think everyone's entitled to an advocate, but typically in care management, it's private pay, or actually some long-term care insurance policies have a line of service that will cover care management services. So what we do for some of our families who have long-term care insurance, we will review the policies, and lo and behold, we will find a line item that speaks to care management services. So
That's
it's
good.
either way.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So, if you have a policy, check it out. It might pay for some of these services.
Well, just as an aside, it's not always directly called care management. It's very tricky. They'll call it lots of different things. So that's why you need someone who's in the know about reviewing these policies to help you, because lo and behold, sometimes there's this little sentence in between many other paragraphs and speaks to this service. So,
And you wouldn't
yes,
know that just
you
by
would not
reading
knowing
it.
that by reading it yourself. Definitely not.
Hey, good point. That's a
Yes.
really good point.
Yes.
So if someone is listening and they like what they hear about geriatric care management and they have
Sure.
other questions, maybe they want to call you and talk to you
Aw,
or get some
okay.
advice, can they do that?
Yes,
And
definitely.
how do they contact you?
Okay, so I'll give you a few different ways. If somebody's more interested in email, because I do get lots of email inquiries, you can email to me at jposer, POSER, at care, CARE, manage, MANAGE.com. If you'd like to call our office, you can ask for Jill. You can reach us at 561-266-3489. And those are two really great ways to reach me. And if I'm not in the office, I will be contacted straight away. And please leave a way to reach you back, and I will call you back happily and help in any way that I can.
I think that's great. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. So we want to talk a few minutes that we have left on the show. I know that you started out in construction with making
I
places
did.
safe,
I
okay,
did.
for the elderly and improving their quality of life in the home.
Yep.
And I know that you've probably taken all that wonderful knowledge with you into your care management role, and you go into homes and you probably assess the safety.
That's true.
So can you share with us some of the tips that maybe people could do at home themselves to make sure that their loved ones are safe?
Sure. So actually, that's, I guess, the most near and dear to my heart, because you know what? I realized that in general, there's really the old adage is that there's no place like home. In general, people want to remain in their home as long as possible. Some have lived in their home a lifetime. Some lived in their home with their husband. Whatever the case may be, people are the most settled, in their own environment. So we always look initially, even in care management, to keep people at home, and it is actually part of our assessment when we meet with the client. What does the bathroom look like? What does the kitchen look like? What does their bedroom look like? And so I will tell you that most accidents happen in the home, whether you have memory loss or you are just somebody like you or me. Most accidents happen at home. And in general, especially for someone with memory loss, most accidents are happening in the bathroom.
Yes, I can
Right?
understand that with the water and the kitchen
yep,
and the
and
bathroom.
in the kitchen. So some of the things we look for, particularly in the bathroom, simple things like, do you have mats on the floor? Do the mats have any kind of coating on the back so that they're not sliding across the floor? Do you have grab bars in your shower? Do you have a very high threshold into your shower? Now, many people are not going to do construction to make a barrier-free shower. So things that you can do, put a grab bar outside the shower so that somebody can hold on, and then kind of, put one leg over the threshold to be able to get into the shower. Have a grab bar that's going in the horizontal direction on the sidewall, and having a longer grab bar going on the horizontal on the back wall as well, so that wherever the person is in the shower, there's something to grab onto. Now, this works as long as someone is still sort of present in his or her life. At a certain point, I will tell you that none of that is going to make the difference, because a person with a significant amount of memory loss is not going to realize
They're not going to remember to hold on
to the
right.
grab bar. So this is only really for the beginning stages of somebody with memory loss.
Or unless you have a care partner
Unless-
who's right
well, that
there.
I was going to get to. At a certain point, you're going to have supervision into the shower, and that person's going to guide you through the process. Do you have a shower chair? Is this a bathtub with shower combination? So do you have sort of where it's like a transfer bench that kind of gets the person into the shower area? Do you have a handheld, which often I encourage people to transition from just having a shower head to having a handheld shower, so that when they're sitting in their chair, they're holding the handheld and they're much safer than standing up in the shower. If you're in the toilet area, do you have an area where you can actually have a grab bar? Now, in some of the bathrooms, there's nowhere to put a grab bar. So it becomes a little complicated depending on the type of bathroom you have, the type of home you have, how much safety you can use. You want your house to be as well lit as possible. You want to have the colors to be as simple as possible, so that you don't have as many shadows. You want softer colors because it's not as overwhelming. So it's things like that. In the kitchen is kind of precarious. The kitchen is only good at the very beginning of the memory loss journey, candidly. And at a certain point, the kitchen is just not safe anymore. You can't have someone with memory loss in the kitchen utilizing a stove or an oven. So you have to be very careful of what that person is or isn't, around.
You might even have to take the knobs off the stove.
Or you might have to just unplug. We tell people all the time, at a certain point, you can't have a working stove anymore and have somebody with memory loss be able to go in and out of the kitchen.
Right.
At a certain point, it almost won't matter.
Well, I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Okay,
This has been great, Jill. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
You want us to tune in next week? We have another great show for you. Thank you for coming, Jill, from
Thank you for
AdvoCare.
having me. Really, thank you.
Everybody, stay well. Don't forget, till next week, give someone a hug. They need it, and so do you. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those